Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing really well. It's a little bit blustery. You can hear there's a tent next to me. You can hear it kind of blowing in the wind. If you hear that noise, it's what it is. Um, just pretty short this morning. I've been wanting to get this out for a couple of days, and for some reason, it just hasn't happened. So today's the day. Um, so we'll just get right to it. Are any of you going through something right now where somehow or another there's been a little part of your ego that raised its head and was able to be attached to by some archon activity? Um, Father has a question for you. What do you need to learn through this? What is it about? The enemy brings these things, the negative, the opposite of the positive, whom it is that we are trying to rise against to free our brothers and sisters in this end game. Whatever you want to call it, I'm pretty comfortable calling them archons, just because it gives you the idea that they're the miscreated who do not know Father, so they have no understanding of what they're doing. They believe that they are Father. They think that they are the horse. They don't know they're the cart, that they're the created. So that's just what I refer them to. Hopefully it works for you. If not, insert whatever you prefer. When the enemy brings these things, what Father wants to know, what is it that he is working towards the good in you with this situation that he did not bring to you? Of course not. But there's sovereign beings that are in the negative that did bring it to you in order to keep you captured. And now that that's happened, he's working everything towards your good. He works towards the good of all those who love him. So his question is what is it that you need to learn? I went through something about a week ago or so, and it was such a fine line, I could not see it. I just could see the results, and the results were not what I wanted. And I was like, Father, what is. I just felt like it was time for me to step aside. I was like, Father, I'm not operating in my mission. The thing that I desire to do is not happening. So maybe it's just time for you to move me out of the way and assign somebody else because maybe I've lost it. Derek's talked about that a couple of times, where if you aren't able to complete your mission, if you continue to make the choices veering on the side of the negatives as opposed to the Christ consciousness, that someone else will step in. And so I was kind of feeling like, well, that must be what's going to happen. But what it was that there was just a very, very fine little tiny speck that needed to be looked at and fixed. So that's what it was. And I had to break upon the rock and so that I could see that. So Father's asking you, what is it that you're needing to learn right now? And at the end of this, I'll share with you what it was that I learned. Another thing that took place, and I don't know if this means anything, but maybe it means something to somebody, was Father brought to the front of my mind. Movies are always big to me, but this movie's never really come forward before. But it was in the night, and it was the movie The Transformers, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. And if you're not, go watch it because there's a lot of meat in that story. Um, it is a story about mechanical robot type beings, but they are alive because they have an allspark. They have this spark of life within them, that they are mechanical and they are made out of metal and they are like machines, but they're also very much alive because they have the spark of the creator in them in this storyline. And they're all separate, but yet they're not. They work together for the good. And when the really, really big game comes along, they end up combining together each one of these pieces, and there's different ones. And of course, Bumblebee is my favorite, always has been. Like I said when I was sharing this with the first person I shared it with, I got dibs because Bumblebee is my guy. So I'm sorry, but that's who I get to be. It's just the way it is. But anyways, so I got this vision of this and how Optimus Prime is the large machine entity that all of them become. They hook together and they become this one unit. And this one unit is usually what wins the day. It's unstoppable. In the end game, this is what wins the day. It's when they all come together into this oneness. Sound familiar? So anyways, there was that. And then right after that, very soon, I fell back to sleep and then I woke up again and I was brought to the place in Lord of the Rings where Aragorn, his sword, got shattered It wasn't him who shattered it, I don't believe. I think it was an ancestor of his, but the sword was now passed to him because he was the king in line. Dunedain, extended life, kind of a special being, but he didn't want anything to do with the responsibility because of the things that happened before. But it brought me to that, and how this sword, laid in pieces in care by the elves, who represent angels in this movie scenario, from my perspective anyway. And these angels, elves, are the only ones who could put this sword back together and make it as powerful as it once was. And it's in pieces. And it needs to be put back together in order to create one sword. And this sword is what gives the victory to the hands of Aragorn. And I saw that, and then it was very clear to me that Father was trying to show me this whole picture of what's happening now in this end game. An interesting little ditty on the Transformers movie. When I got up that morning, I went to sit with a friend and have coffee. And this friend was looking for his coffee cup and he couldn't find it. And unbeknownst to me, I had no idea what this was about at all. And he finally finds his cup and he brings it out and it says Transformers on it. And I looked at him and I said, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" Because I asked Father for confirmation, what is this about? And I said, if there is a picture of Bumblebee on the back of that cup, I'm telling you right now. And I told him the little story about what Father had shown me. He turns his cup around, sure enough, Bumblebee, right? So it was just a little confirmation that Father wanted me to share this. And for me, um, it's about all of us in this time frame that we're in right now, combining together, understanding and perceiving the oneness that we are. It's not changeable. The truth cannot be negotiated. It doesn't get moved, but our perception of it gets moved all over the place. And once we perceive incorrectly, then we believe incorrectly, and then that belief is usurped and used towards the negative. When we perceive correctly, then it goes towards the Christ consciousness, and our belief, once again, as powerful as it is, combines with the belief of all of our brothers and sisters in our Father, and we are one. And this is a war that we're in, and us together, perceiving each other as one, like in the movie Transformers, are being put back together by the powers that be into one sword with a tip, with a shaft, all of us working together. This is a war, and it is time to fight. Now, that being said, I know a lot of you are probably going, "Oh, fight, negative, anger, not like the Matrix fights wars." Not at all, not even close. Our war is fought with love and staying in the middle ground. If you watched Derek's last video and you did not get a significant amount of bread from that, go back and watch it again and pay very close attention to his words. And the video before that, he is dropping little nuggets on how we navigate this perceived oneness once we perceive it correctly. And it is with love and in the middle ground. It is not about being an aggressor or going after anything. It's about love, and it's about staying in that place. Don't choose a side. There's going to be so many things offered up to you. Stay in Christ consciousness, stay one with the Father, one with the rest of the family, and be. So there's that. My arm's getting a little bit tired from holding my phone. Ugh, hate that. I don't have any kind of setup to hold it for me yet. Maybe one day. So there's that. Now where it comes to me, and that question Father posed to me first. What is it that I'm doing to show you and to bring good to you in this circumstance? And what happened was, somewhere along the line, and I don't really know where it happened, probably because I was allowing myself to get frustrated. And that's ego. Being frustrated with things that are around you, or even being affected to them in the slightest bit, is only ego. If you're not in that ego, if it's fully dead, then you're like water. And you bend and move to the things around you, and you stay in the middle ground. Well, I was really battling, doing what I believed my mission is, and it was not producing the fruit that it needed to produce. And it was very backwards. The whole thing was backwards, and it was just about to lose the game, pretty much. And it was very important. And I wrestled and wrestled and wrestled with it. And in one of my nighttime appointments, Father showed me something, and I spoke to a very trusted friend. And this person gave me incredible confirmation, and also added a little sliver that I didn't have yet to what had already been given to me. And it was very clear what had happened. And what had happened is we have this ability to love, and we are to love and hold no account, but we also judge. Not in the sense that we judge ourselves or anyone else for what they do, but a judgment for discernment, so that we can see what's happening, and then we can make a decision based on what we see. And I've had a pretty decent hold on this whole no, hold no account, keep the Archon activity separate from the creation. And so that's why I was so confused, and I just, Father, what's happening? Well, in my frustration, I had somehow crossed this little tiny hair-sized line where I was holding this judgment that's meant for discernment towards the creation and being kind and a little soft spoken to the Archon activity. And how that happened was it started with a benevolent desire. I never want to speak too harshly truth. I don't ever want to throw things out there that Father shows me in too much harshness, because I know that sometimes the truth really does hurt and it causes people to struggle and, feel things that are not necessarily positive. And so it was my benevolent desire to be kind and to be patient and to give things out in very small increments and not too harshly. That was a benevolent desire. In that benevolent desire, I wasn't speaking clearly. I was not speaking with authority. I was speaking passively. I was speaking parabolically when it was not time for me to do that. And it was causing frustration. And then that frustration, somewhere in all that, it got switched. And I was holding this discernment and this judgment against the creation. And I was being benevolent, loving, and soft with the Archon activity. I honestly still to this day do not know how that happened. It's how sneaky and crafty our enemy can be. It can just kind of weave in there and take your most benevolent desire and twist it into something else. But by watching the attributes of my circumstances and the fruit of what was happening, I was able to see, okay, Father, yes, I hear you. That's what this was about, because the days that are coming, this is going to be the only way that you can tell what's happening and that it's not going in the direction that it should, because it may feel perfectly right to you inside, because it did. But when I looked at the fruit, it wasn't. The attributes were not of Father. And I was like, what is happening in this end game? Attributes are going to be the only way that we can steer and stay in that middle place. Attributes, attributes. Okay, so that's pretty big, which I've spoken about that before. But anyways, in that process, I could see that the attributes were not there. So something was wrong. Something was going in a direction it shouldn't have. So I switched it. And I wrote down here in my notes that love and no account of either Archon or creation. There's never an account of either, ever, 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 ever. But a love towards the creation with absolutely zero judgment. Zero. And then a judgment towards the Archon activity, but not in the sense that you're holding what they do against them, that you're putting it on a shelf and adding it up together to look at it, to discern what's happening so that you can make the right moves and stay in the right place, but only for discernment. It's never to hold anyone or anything to any account, because any accounts at all are going to trip you up. So there is that. And then there's one more little thing, and I call it white lining. It's something that I came up with a term for myself, because sometimes I run across things where I realize that I can't go there anymore. And I draw a white line, a very bright white line that I may never cross again. And I'm just going to share this with you in case it helps someone. If it doesn't, that's fine too, but I feel compelled to share it to you. There are things that affect your meat suit, and only you know what they are. It's an inside job. It has to do with you. For me, I will share what that is. And I've wrestled with food addiction in my past. I wrestled with, I've had some alcohol addictions back in my teen years. I've had some different addictions, but food has been the one that's kept me captive mostly. And sugar being the key component of that. And recently just realized that this is something that affects my meat suit in the total negative, and it causes an opportunity for the negatives to be able to get a hold of my ego in that sense. It doesn't matter how little of it I consume or what my perspective is, it just affects my meat suit. It gives them a way in. And I made a decision to draw that white line with it. And I haven't crossed that white line, and I won't. It's just something I do for myself. If this is not something you can do, no big deal. If this doesn't mean anything to you, toss it aside. If it does, it is for you that I'm sharing this. So if you're on mission and you know what you're supposed to be doing, and there's a trajectory to your life, and you know that, if you come across anything that can infiltrate your meat suit, sugar, drugs, sex, movies, it could dirt, a tree, it doesn't matter what the thing is. What matters is how it affects you in your body, because you have to be able to drive this meat suit or it will drive you. So I call this white lining. And just a question to you, how big of a priority is your mission to you? To me, there is no other priority higher than that. So when I come across something and it's very evident to me that it gives way to the Archon activity to get a hold of me through the double connection that, like I said in my meat suit video, the last one I made, that dual connection, if that gives an avenue for them to get at me, even a small one where it just changes my brain chemicals just a little bit enough to give them a door, the priority is big enough to me to say no. So, and I just say, you white line that S-H-I-T. I'm not going to say it because I almost did, but there may be kids watching this, so I didn't want to do that. Anyways, you white line that crap. And it just depends on your priority level. Once again, this is not a judgment. This is not, your priority level is yours. You set this, but it's just something that I've done for myself. And I can tell you, once I white line something, it's hard. And believe me, oh my gosh, last week I had such a terrible test to see if this was going to actually, if I was actually going to be able to pull it off. It was really, really hard, and it was hard, but there was also freedom in it, because I know that can never be an avenue again, because I've cut that. I've drawn a line and I will not cross it. So if you have a high priority level in your heart for what it is that you came here to do, and you know that there is something out there, something, someone, a behavior, it doesn't matter what it is, but you know in your heart of hearts that every time it comes up, every single time, it lays avenue to archonic behavior in your own walk. White line it. Don't ever let it cross again. Honestly, what do we need? This meat suit is dead. I've died to everything here. This is what Yeshua taught us to do. This is what we speak to time and time again. There's nothing in this matrix that I need or want or desire, nothing. So really, when it comes down to it, how hard is it just to say, get her done, right? Anyways, it is hard. It's just simple. It's not easy. And I understand that, because believe me, I don't ever talk about these things unless I've walked through it myself. And I just want to encourage you to go inside into your kingdom, and these questions that were presented to you today, if they rang true, if they pricked something in you, go in there. Father's right there with his connection to you, which is Christ, waiting to give you the answers that you need, because I am telling you right now, there is no time is short anymore. This game is on. We're in it. It's war. And I mean, the things that are coming, we need to have our feet firmly planted in that neutral place and be like water. So I love you guys. Quick update on the job situation. Apparently, this little town that I live in has some issues. Go figure, right? Well, some things that happen here are privatized, and they aren't in line with what the entire state that I live in holds as, regulations and laws and rules and whatnot, which doesn't really matter anyway, because it's all matrix. But yeah, having a job here can be quite precarious, especially if it's a privately owned business, which I've worked in the process of trying to get a job with 2 different privately kind of owned businesses, and kind of got screwed, so to speak. So I'm still unemployed. I worked for the last job that I told you. I did start it. Everything was great. Problem being is that their requirement for the job was to work 8 hours without a break. I mean, seriously, I couldn't even go pee. It was ridiculous. And to do the job of 2 people, running an entire situation that it would take at least 2 people to do. But they want you to do it all on your own. 2 days of training, threw me to the wolves and said, do it. So I did the training, and I did what they asked, because I agreed to do it. And then I wanted to sit down with my boss. And anyways, long story short, I didn't even get paid for the work I did. They said, nope, you don't get paid because you're not gonna do what we want you to do, which was basically work like a dog for 8 hours, 5 days a week with no breaks. And I wasn't willing to do that. I asked them for something with shorter hours. Nope, we don't have anything. That's the job. Take it or leave it. So I left it. Was happy though, because I was going to get a few days pay under my belt, which would have helped. And they said, no, that was training. We don't pay training unless you stay. And the other circumstance I was involved in, same thing. Very manipulative, very controlling. So out looking for work again. Just wanted to let you know that. And I know that some of you have still been in support of what I'm trying to do out here financially. I'm very grateful for that and thankful. We're doing good. We're doing okay at the moment. I'm not concerned in the slightest because everything is as it should be. Just wanted to keep you abreast of that for those that figured I was working, because I thought I was working too, but I'm not. So I'm out looking. I've applied for work in a couple of other areas that aren't panning out yet. I'm kind of steering towards more corporate type of, largely owned chain stores that aren't so privately owned, because I don't want to run into that problem again, but we'll see what happens. But I wanted to keep you abreast of that. It's beautiful, as you can see. You can see the sun shining behind my head. It's so gorgeous here. I just love it. Yeah, I know. Oh, that doesn't look very nice. Some old tubs over there. The tree looks nice. But anyways, I hope that this finds you all blessed and filled with hope and joy and peace. And if not, then I will send to you what I have. And know that I've held you all in my hearts, and I'm continually, continually, continually working on holding this entire thing in intention. And like I said, was it was it in my video? No, I don't think it was. But spoiler alert, we win. So just take heart. I love you guys so much, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. And I'll be coming back to you soon. I think that's it. Talk to you later. Bye.